Welcome back to Gardening of the Woods, you guys. First and foremost, I want to go ahead and invite you once again to subscribe to gardeningofthewoods.com. You'll be entered into a monthly giveaway, which I will be announcing my winner next week, so you still have time. There's a link below. Subscribe and good luck. You might be this month's winner. Also, I want to go ahead and reintroduce Randy. If you've been listening, he is the one that sent me the story Bigfoot stalks old miner's cabin near Lake Tahoe, California. He had other encounters that he has sent me, and I have had a high volume of requests to hear his other stories. So I'm gonna kind of skip forward and start telling one or two Randy stories here and there. But hey, if he's that popular, let me know. Let me know what you think. I'll go ahead and tell his other stories. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Tonight's story is titled Expedition Bigfoot near the Klamath River, Oregon. I grew up right near beautiful Lake Tahoe, California most of my life. Then I moved up to the lush forest land of Oregon State, close to the Klamath River for a logging job I've taken with a friend of mine who had actually got me the job in the first place. My thirst for Bigfoot has been so strong ever since my first encounter as a child. Me being a squatcher, I was more than happy to move up to Oregon. After all, the Bigfoot sightings and stories I've ever heard in my life came right out of the beautiful state of Oregon, so you might understand my excitement. That month prior, I've set up a Bigfoot expedition with an old Indian elder friend of mine named Grey Wolf. He's been squatching for years, and up until that point, he has been the one that has taught me everything about Bigfoot. I plan to meet him in Colorado along the Continental Divide near the small town of Keystone. But till that day, I spent most of my time hanging out with my good old buddy Roger, and according to him, talking way too much about my upcoming Bigfoot expedition the following month. Just to change the subject, he had started telling me about a hunting trip he had planned for the following weekend, and I think out of kindness he invited me to come along. I had agreed, and I even thought to myself, hey, maybe I could talk him into scouting for some Bigfoot hotspots since we're already up there anyways. But before I could even spit out a word, Roger says to me, and no Bigfoot talk while we're up there. Got it? Got it. All right, fine. I enjoy hunting too. No problem. That's the least I can do since he listened to me talking about Bigfoot nonstop for the last week and a half, if not two. We both had a few extra days off, so we took off early Tuesday morning and we were hunting that afternoon. It was a very calm day, almost no wind. I was in my tree stand, and I tell you, you could hear every noise around you in the surrounding woods, and to top that off, there hasn't been a deer in sight for hours. We had agreed to wait till about 5 or so, then make our way out of the woods back to the camp and hit it again early the next morning. We had to walk through some thick brush on our way, so we decided we'd go ahead and meet around 4:30 and get back to camp a little early. It was getting a little bit later, and Roger still hadn't come back from scouting for deer. It was about 4:45 now when I heard our first branch snap, and then another. I really didn't think it was Roger due to the sound of the branches being snapped. These weren't small branches breaking in any way, and I could tell whatever it was coming my way, and fast. I'd got my rifle ready to see what it was coming towards me through my scope. I had put some bait out earlier, so I thought, hey, maybe it might be a bear coming my way. By the way, it was clumsily coming towards me. I then saw movement off to the left of me. I grabbed my gun once again and tried to get the animal to my sight through my scope to identify exactly what was coming towards me. Then it came into view, and what I saw through my scope had dark brown hair like a moose. And as I tried to get a better look at it through my scope, again, it stopped. It stopped about 30 yards from me and remained completely still. Once I started looking around my scope at it better, I could finally identify what it was I was looking at. What I saw looked like a gorilla. A gorilla on two legs with very thick, long hair and hulking muscles. It must have seen me looking around at it through my scope, though. It wasn't there more than a few seconds, but right when it realized I was watching it through my scope, It let out a super loud howl that made my ears ring for 15 minutes afterward. It was a howl like I've never heard anything make before, at least up to that point in my life. At this point, it turned and went back the way it came from very rapidly, covering ground through the thick brush back into the forest and breaking branches as it went. I would estimate it went about 100 yards in 10 seconds flat and then stopped again and held. This one was a lot more louder than the other one. Then it continued moving along. I could tell it was going away from me, but very rapidly. My heart at this time was pounding through my chest. I sat there in complete shock and excitement for what had just happened to me. It wasn't more than a minute later that Roger came crashing out of the brush on the opposite direction the creature went, which scared the hell out of me, by the way. Roger was huffing and puffing in his skin pale white, like he had just seen a ghost. He told me to gather my stuff, and we're getting the hell out of there now. I was wondering what was going on. He told me when he was out scouting, he was scanning the forest and spotted a huge bear next to a tree on all fours. He grabbed his gun to look through his scope to get a better look at it. He thought it was odd that the bear was more like sitting its butt against the tree rather than being on all fours. It wasn't until the creature turned its head to look his way that he realized he was looking directly at a gorilla. He told me they both got up off the ground they were sitting on and began running in the opposite direction of each other in a flat-out sprint. He noticed the creature was running sideways in a hopping motion, using both his feet and his knuckles to spring off of. He didn't care where it was going. He just knew he was getting the hell out of there, and now. At that point, after he told me that story, I climbed out of my tree stand, and we both ran like hell to my truck a mile away through thick cedar with my safety off my gun and being way too scared to look back. We finally got back to my truck and jumped in. We tried to grasp in our heads exactly what had just happened to us. My fear and excitement was way more different than Roger's, though. Mine was more of an adrenaline rush mixed with a kid in a candy store kind of feeling. Roger's was more of a peeing in his pants, nervous breakdown kind of combo. I was trying to explain to him exactly what he saw, but he was 100% certain it was a gorilla. He's not a believer in Bigfoot, and still is not to this day. After I'd seen this Bigfoot, I understood what the elder was telling me about, saying there are different kinds of races of Bigfoots in this world. This particular one is very, very gorilla-like. This was the first Bigfoot face I'd seen, so I couldn't really compare it to any others. If I didn't know better, I would have thought I was staring at a gorilla too. But I knew better. Roger did tell me he had been hunting in this area for 2 years and had his tree stand very, very close to the area we had this encounter. He had always heard knocking and wooing and never really thought anything about it. But knowing what he knows now scares the life out of him, and knowing and thinking he was out there alone, all alone, with this creature many times. Until that day, my friend Roger was an avid hunter of anything and everything, and had never thought that there was a creature like this out there. And now hearing and seeing what he encountered that day, he altogether quit hunting and hasn't been out in the woods since that day. For me, this has been one of my favorite hotspots for years. I've been out there with 4 other buddies, and we've been coming back again and again for years since that day. And just to think, I found this the most hottest spot, at least one of the most hottest spots, by just pure luck. What a rush. As for the following month's expedition, I went on with Grey Wolf. That was another story, but honestly, I sent you that story, so there's no point in getting into it right now. But I'll say this. That trip was the beginning of a deeper understanding and respect for this legendary creature. Not just coming across the creature, but some of the stories he told me. The stories that were passed down from family member to family member for over 100 years. I've only had a handful of sightings in my life, but never as many encounters as when I was with this old man. I really don't know if it had anything to do with just plain good old luck or the fact that he was a Native American. I don't know. But one story that intrigued me the most was when he claims that if any of his family or tribe members had ever gotten lost or was in need of help in the forest, all they had to do was sing the Sasquatch song, and they would come to their aid and help them. Well, as long as it wasn't used for amusement purposes only. And no, don't ask me what the song was because I don't know it. He never taught me the song since I wasn't a family or tribe member. But I sure was curious about it, and I still am. I also had to accept the fact that I didn't have the mental or emotional control over myself to have such power to summon a Bigfoot at will and just not abuse it. Well, I guess I'll never know if he was serious or not, will I? Anyways, thanks again for letting me share. Randy.